Before we get started with the video today, guys, I want to let you viewers out there know that only a small fraction of you guys currently watching are actually subscribed to my channel, so make sure to smash that subscribe button for instant updates about videos that I release and other announcements, and also smash that like button to help my channel out. Enjoy the video.
Everything in Felicia is under my control. I won't waste my breath on those unwilling to listen. You are a vital part of this city's development.
Yo, what is up, guys? It is Samool here, back with another Epic 7 YouTube video, and today I'm going to be previewing and talking about if you guys should be pulling for the new Moonlight 5-star unit, Belian, who's coming out in the Mystic banner rotation soon as of this video's release. Now, she is a light knight, and I'm sure you guys have heard already a lot about her and seen comments and other videos, and she's kind of known as the Cleave killer, right? But there's a lot of units that have been known as that, so I don't think she'll completely kill Cleave. But her main mechanic is that she'll stop soul gain, as I'm sure you guys know. And people have been hyping this unit up, saying she'll be very broken, and she's a must pull. But I do think that people are overrating her just from looking at her kit. I can tell that there's going to be a decent amount of counters that are already released in the game at the moment. And I think Smilegate does plan to release counters if she does end up being very strong anyways, because they do that to kind of power creep really strong units, you know, in the game historically. Now, without further ado, let's get into this review. So let's look at her skill design and her model real quick. So you can see that she was made by Politis in the lore, so she looks exactly like her. The thing is, though, you cannot actually imprint her with Politis. She will be kind of like Strays and Archdemon's Shadow, where you'll have to be buying the imprint stones for 10 gold transmit stones as well in the shop. So you will not be able to imprint her with Politis. And you can see that her design is very, very pretty, you know. I think a lot of people want to pull her for the waifu factor, just because her model looks very nice, and two big reasons as well. And yeah, she looks pretty cool. I think I would definitely pull for her for design, but unfortunately I don't think her kit is that great, which we'll get into in a second. Kind of boring in my opinion, but I do really like her animations and her design, especially her S3 animation, which I think is coming up in this video in like 2 seconds. Somewhere here, yeah, here it is. This is like the S3, I guess it's not an animation, but it's a picture of the animation, but she turns into like a devil. And now let's get into her skills real quick, or not her skills, her stats, I'm sorry. But her attack is low because she is a knight, so yeah, no knights really have high attack unless you're like, like Senya or whatever. Her health is very high for a knight, her speed is pretty decent, her defense is high, and you'll see she has some effectiveness built in from her awakenings, which you'll see will, you know, make a pretty big difference because her skills do revolve around debuffing and stripping, and her imprints are going to be effect resist for the team, which is pretty decent, and health for herself, which is also very good because her skills actually scale with her max HP. So the more HP she has, the more damage she does. So you're going to want to stack a lot of health on her just by looking at her stats and her ratios. So yeah, she is in Aries horoscopes. If you want to start building her really fast when she comes out, you're going to want to start farming the Aries catalysts. Every horoscope in the game has a certain set of catalysts that all is consistent. So any unit in the game that you have that has the Aries horoscope, you can just check their catalyst requirements, and you can just use that as a guideline. I'm pretty sure from the top of my head it's the power path loops for the rare ones, and then it's the nightmare masks for the epic ones if you guys want to start stockpiling them to build her right away and awaken her right away. Now her stats look pretty decent, guys. Now let's get into her skills. She's a very tanky knight, right? So yeah, this is her biggest skill, and this is why a lot of people are complaining. Shackles of Suppression, her S2. Basically, it'll stop all souls that you gain until she's dead. So whenever she's in the field, you're just not going to be gaining souls. This does include Tagahel's Ancient Book. It is confirmed by community managers, the Japan server, and a lot of admins have confirmed that this soul gain will also work for Tagahel's Ancient Book. So if you fight her on a defense team and you try to cleave her and you have like Bazaar with Book, yeah, you're going to have 0 souls and you'll be at the mercy of some RNG, especially if your Bazaar doesn't have effectiveness. So very, very huge counter to Tagahel's, which has been a very hot topic in the community lately, whether it's OP or like whether it's fine or whatever. And long story short, all the cleavers say it's fine. Everyone else hates getting cleaved because it feels really bad when you get cleaved. So everyone else says it's OP. I also think it's, I wouldn't say it's like overpowered, right? As an artifact, but it's definitely very strong, right? I think that's an easy given. It's very strong. And also, I think the ability to stack Tagahels is a little broken, right? I think you should not be able to stock Tagahels. I think if you were allowed only one per team, that actually it would be a lot more balanced, right? It's just not fun getting cleaved in even RTA by like 60 souls, right? It's just there's just no counterplay. You just have to like ban all the books, right? But that's a separate topic. So alongside these soul not being gained, so Tagahels doesn't work, right? You're just not getting souls from using abilities until she's dead. You also have a built-in Justice for All passive. So Justice for All is an artifact where at the end of the turn you get a random buff. Very common on like Falcon or Clary and even like Charlotte. But this is like a built-in Justice for All built into this soul gain thing. But the thing is, this will activate at the start of the turn instead of the end of the turn like Justice for All does. And it'll be a 100% chance when you max it out, which you'll want to. And it gives you 3 buffs. So it gives you effectiveness, crit chance, and continuous healing. Now some people say that this is useless, but I think it's pretty useful because effectiveness will tie in with her S1 and S3 pretty well, as you'll see later. Crit chance is very nice because knights don't build that much crit. And because she does have HP scaling and you want her to stay alive as much as possible, I don't think you'll be building any damage on her. So you'll be getting the 50% crit chance buff and you'll be getting maximum value out of it. And it'll just make you hit a lot harder, right? Because you're probably going to stack a lot of HP on her. And HP is what scales with her damage on her S1 and S3. So you're actually going to be doing a decent chunk of damage. She also has continuous healing, which might not seem that great. But I think continuous healing is very, very underrated buff. It just makes you so tanky, and I think it'll scale with her own max HP, which you're stacking, so she'll actually be healing a lot. So very good skill, in my opinion. Kind of a broken passive. I think this is a little bit overtuned, but they're definitely going to add some counters to this, which I think will be in the form of like Seal or something like that, right? So yeah, this is her S3, guys. So basically it's an AoE attack. It pushes back your CR by 20%, 40%, between 20% and 40%, I'm sorry. And also provoke for 1 turn, similar to like not FCC, Fire Cecilia's provoke. And also will increase defense of yourself, and it'll scale with your max HP, like I've been saying. And it's a 4-turn cooldown, so pretty decent skill. The only problem is it does not strip, right? So at the beginning of the game, you're either going to want to make her slow, so she goes after everyone else, or you're going to need to hold out on using this if she's too fast, because you're just going to want her to, you know, land the provoke if you can, because it's a very, very powerful debuff. And also defense buff is very, very nice. But I think you're most likely not going to build her that fast anyways. I think you're going to most likely end up building her on a counter set, because you'll see in her S1 that it just really, really makes it so you kind of want to build her on counter set anyways. But yeah, talking about her S3 again, I think this is a pretty decent skill. CR push between 20% and 40% is actually a lot. Now there is some RNG built in, but like say you do get like the average at 30%, that's a pretty decent CR push, right? 30% CR push is pretty huge, and if you do get provoked on top of it, you're basically losing like 1.5 turns, so pretty decent. And I think that this does a pretty decent amount of damage. I think people were comparing it to FCC's S3. So let's look at the animation and the damage real quick. So the animation looks pretty nice. You know, just looking at this makes me want to pull her, right? But yeah, you'll see. All right, so this is the damage. So you'll see on a crit, it did 6.3k to Troublemaker Crozet, but I do assume that he's an Aureus, so he's taking more damage. So let's look at the Landy. I think the Landy took 2.4k, so that's pretty much going to be the damage coming out of it. So yeah, pretty similar to FCC's S3. But she is also being shared with Troublemaker Crozet, so I think this will most likely do about like 4k damage on a crit. So pretty decent. Now she also does have attack buff, so maybe not as much as 4k, but just thinking about it, doing about like 3k-ish damage, and I think it's a pretty good estimate. So not like completely useless damage wise, but it is like, you know, not that great, but it is okay. So Light of Destruction is her S1 AoE attack. It's gonna have a chance to strip 1 buff. I think it goes up to 65% chance, which is okay. And when it's used on your turn, you have a 35% chance, which cannot go up with Molas. It's always going to be at 35%, guys, to activate Incursion as an extra attack. Now the first part of her S1 will deal increased damage proportional to their max health, so your max health will make you do more damage. And also the second part, Incursion, you'll see it's an AoE attack that has a chance to apply decreased speed and hit chance for 1 turn, and it'll also increase proportional to max health. So yeah, you can see that you're going to most likely just stack a lot of HP on her with like a good amount of defense, so she doesn't die to, you know, having too much HP and too low defense, if that makes sense. And yeah, she just looks really annoying because she's going to be stripping, and after the strip, she has a chance to attack you again and decrease speed and hit chance, which is a very, very annoying debuff. Both of them are very annoying to have. If you guys have fought against like a Dizzy, or you guys have Dizzy and you know her S3, yeah, it's just not a fun thing to play against. It really cripples DPS and even like tanks and bruisers. Like if you're trying to FCC provoke lock someone, you have hit chance down and you miss, you're not going to provoke, right? So very annoying to deal with. If you get really unlucky though, just keep in mind like it is RNG, so you might not actually have to deal with this if you're fighting against her. But you guys already know if you fight this unit on defense, she's going to activate this every turn. It's really tilting. So RNG factor, I think Smilegate has been adding like a lot of RNG factors in the game lately, which I'm not really a fan of. But this is another RNG like skill. Incursion is just very, very powerful, especially because it happens after the strip, right? You'll also see that you can actually bypass the incursion RNG and only have to deal with the strip RNG by soul burning it. And it is a very, very cheap soul burn at 10 souls only, and it is pretty worth to use in my opinion just by looking at it because it is an AoE debuff attack, so it seems very, very strong. I think people will build around counter even though incursion won't activate because AoE strip is a pretty powerful ability, especially in a meta where there's so many buffs going up right now, right? Like LR crowd immunity happens, FCC barriers, right? There's Justice for All Charlottes running around. There's so many attack buffers. There's Guiding Light Landies, right? There's just so many buffs that I think this is a pretty powerful skill overall. I don't know if they show the animation here. Let's look. So yeah, I think it's just like a regular attack, right? Kamehameha. And are they going to show incursion here? Yeah, and here it is. Just tentacles coming out, Doc Ock style, you know, trying to debuff you. But yeah, overall, I think she is going to be a pretty decent unit, guys. I think everyone that says she's going to kill Cleave is kind of overreacting because there's so many units that have been released in Epic 7 where people are like, this is going to end Cleave. Cleave is over, right? Like, for example, the most recent Moonlight unit, Angel of Light Angelica, I don't even think it kills Cleave, right? Especially in RTA settings, because you can cleave with her, right? So why wouldn't you be able to cleave with Belian? I guess it might not be usable, but I do think it's okay to use her in a cleave setup, or you can just ban her, right, in RTA. But I do think Smilegate will need to add more bans in RTA as well, just to counteract how many counters they're releasing the Cleave. And I do think Cleave is kind of annoying, but I do think you need Cleave in the game for the game to be healthy, because if you just shut down Cleave completely, you're going to make so many units just like not viable. And right now, I think this current state of the game, there's a decent amount of units that are viable, so you don't really want to shut out, you know, other units, right? Like Cleave units, if you shut down Cleave, you're just denying so many units from being able to be used in PvP, right? And a lot of those Cleave units like Pavel, like Flan, right, you don't really use in PvE. So you want to make sure Cleave is in a healthy state. And I think this is a pretty extreme measure, but I don't think it'll kill Cleave because Belian, not everyone will have in the beginning. And by the time a lot of people start getting her, they'll probably release like some counters to it as well, like you saw with Summertime Hysteria, where you don't need souls to soul burn, and maybe some other like units as well, just to purely counter her. But yeah, I think the ability to shut down Tag Hells is a bit over the top. I think they should have just reworked Tag Hells and, you know, gave out 4-star artifact selectors because it's a better way to nerf it. But yeah, I think she's a pretty decent unit, pretty solid for Knights, but I do think she does have some decent counters, right? Like I was saying, I think SSB is a big one, right? If her incursion procs in her S1, you're giving SSB 8 focus stacks, so that's basically almost 2 counters. Also, like, she's all AoE, right? So if you put her on counter set as well, SSB will just have a field day and just melt your team, because that's what SSB does. Also, I think that G-Purge will also counter because you're going to be CR pushing the team so much with her AoE attacks. I think that even like Caesarado might counter, right, with the debuffs, right? Because S1 and S3 have debuffs built in. LR Crowd, right, really loves fighting AoE heroes, which is all that Belian has, so he'll get his S3 up super fast against him, and also has immunity buff for his team, so you can't even debuff them. So yeah, I think there's already a decent amount of counters. I don't think she'll be as broken as people think, but I do think she's a good candidate to pity because she's going to be very strong in Guild Wars and Arena defenses, because you can just slot her in, and you can't get pretty much cleaved anywhere, right? The only thing you have to worry about those, you know, getting SSB autoed, like Caesarado autoed, like stuff like that, and I think you can counter that with other units as well. But I just think that from her design and her kit, I think she's a pretty good candidate to pull, like I've been saying. Just not as broken as people think, right? So just don't trust when people say that she's a must pull super OP. I don't think she's super OP. She's definitely strong, very strong maybe, but not overpowered. I think shutting down souls is a very sounds very OP on paper, but I don't think it will be as strong as people think. But yeah, I think worth pulling for. I definitely will be pulling for and testing her out. If you guys don't know whether to pull for or not, and I do recommend this for players anyways, just wait and see what other people do and test her out on and see if she's strong, and then decide to pull her, right? Because her banner is going to be running for almost a month, right? 3 weeks, so you guys have a lot of time to decide. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out my channel a lot, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace!